Have you ever thought, how do I get that classic bebop sound into my playing? Learning from Legends, Bebop Language with Bird. Hey everybody, Chris G here, Positively Progressing. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your continued watching habits. I typically forget to do this, so I'll do it on the front end. Please subscribe and give a thumbs up. Thank you so much, you're awesome. And let's jump into it. So in my opinion, learning and listening to past and present masters is the best way to start learning bebop language. Lately, I've been listening and playing a lot of Charlie Parker, and I was thinking about it. Everything he plays sounds so good, rhythmically, melodically, and harmonically. How does he do this? So I thought, why not dive deep into some of the tunes that he wrote to get a little bit of insight on what Charlie Parker might have been thinking, but most likely what he was hearing when he was writing these tunes. And then we can get an insight on how this master created bebop language. So the two tunes we'll dive into are both rhythm change tunes. One is Anthropology, the other is Dexterity. Now we're going to go over 3 bits of information here. We're going to talk about major bebop language, we're going to talk about turnarounds, 3-6-2-5s, and we're going to talk about dominant bebop language. This is a lot of information, and it may take you a little bit of time to fully grasp it. Take your time with it, be patient, and be kind to yourself when you're learning this stuff. It's not easy. This is a very sophisticated language that Charlie Parker and his peers created. Take your time with it as you learn it, think about it, fully grasp it, hear it, and sing it. Now before we jump into these lines, I know you'll hear the melodies, and then we're going to go over the harmonic structure of it, but I really want you to pay attention to how rhythmically he plays and how rhythmically amazing he plays. This is really, really great rhythmic stuff. So if you're looking to add more syncopation and rhythmic diversity into your playing, there's no better person to learn from than Bird. This is the first few bars of each tune. So here's the first line from Anthropology. As you can see, we have a 5-1 lead in, and then he does a lot of scale stuff here. So this is just a digital pattern, 1, 3, 2, 1. Enclosure right here around the 3 to the 5. So only one note is not diatonic, but notice how he uses jumps and skips and an enclosure to make this have so much of a bebop sound. So here's the opening line to Dexterity. Now notice he starts on the and again, but this time he's on the and of 1, but he's still doing that same thing, 5 to 1, but then he goes to the 3. So that's just a major triad right here. And then this is all pretty much scale stuff. He goes from the 9 or the 2, and ends up back on the 2. So he's just going 2, 1, 7, 1, 2. So when we get to this next bar, we can still think of ourselves in C. Now if we're thinking of the C major bebop scale, which has a half step between the 6 and the 5, which would be G sharp or A flat, he's basically just using that C major bebop scale throughout these first 2 bars. So moving on in the second bar, we're going 2 to 1 to 3, and then we come to our first non-diatonic note, which if we're talking about the C major bebop scale, this would be the sharp 5. If we're talking about G7, this would be flat 9. Then he resolves it here, 7, 9, or 2, which is an enclosure around the C, ends on the 5. Boom. So let's check out the first ending of each tune. This one I love. This one's really cool. So he does this lead in here, which in C, this is just a 1, 2, 3, 5. That's the 3 of E minor, the G there. And then we have the 3, so he's anticipating by half a beat. We have the 3 here of A, jumping up to the flat 9, but he's really using that flat 9 and this passing tone here, which is the natural 7, right? Which is like a big no-no on, a dominant chord. But really what he's doing, enclosure, right around this, the 5 of D minor. So that's what he's setting up there. He's setting up this to hit that. So now we're moving on to the 2-5. We had the 3, 6, now we have the 2, so we're on the 5 of the D, which is A. Then we go to the 3, right? It's a minor third, F natural. Then the 7. And then back to the 5. Notice that this is an F major triad, right? This here It's an F major triad. Power of 3, just saying. And then he resolves with, this is the 13 to the 1 in G, but in C, that's the 3 to the 5. So this is a great way to end a line on the 5, because 5 typically leads to 1, and it's just setting up for us to go back to the top, right? So he hits the 5, and then on the end of 4, he's back to the top of Anthropology. Alright, so this is the first ending to Dexterity, and I kind of went back and forth on how to write this. Sometimes I hear like he's doing triplets for this part here, 8th note triplets, or he's doing this rhythm. I've listened to it in different recordings and I can't quite figure out which one's correct because I've heard it kind of both ways. But anyways, he's doing this lead in, so this is just kind of 5, 7, 5, 7, and he's hitting that flat 9. He's anticipating the 5 of the D here. So that's such a pretty line right there. I love that. So 5, and he's just doing 1, 7, 5, and this is a nice like 6/5 or 13/5 resolution. That's a really, really nice resolution. Notice he's using just one, right? I'll circle it here. One really non-diatonic tone throughout this entire first ending. Pretty sweet. Go bird. Now let's check out the bridge for some dominant language. Okay, everybody, we are at the home stretch. We are on dominant bebop. If you're still with me, thanks for hanging out. These next two lines I think are just really, really great dominant bebop language. If you're looking at this as a whole, notice that the only non-diatonic note that I'm seeing is this one right here. And that's a sharp 11. This is a really, really nice note. So why does this work so well, this sharp 11 right here? Well, if we were to think of this bar as a D minor 7, that's the natural 7. A nice leading tone into the D. It sounds great over dominant. You have that tension and release. So you can do this with any dominant chord. You can make, if you have two dominant chords in a row like this, G7, G7, you can turn the first one into D minor and think of it as a big 2/5. So you only have one dominant chord in a bar. You can make it a short 2/5. You can go D minor, G7. Think of the first two beats as D minor, and then the second two beats as G7. Let's jump into this line a little bit. I just wanted to point out that real quick. All right, so he starts the line right on the 7, just walks it down. 6, 5. Whoa, what is that? 5. There's that sharp 11 or 4. Right, it goes back up to the 6, 5, down. Here's the kind of leaps here. So 2 or 9, we'll call it the 9. Back up to the 5. This is just a 4/3 resolution, and then that's going to lead him right back into the head of Anthropology. There's the G. I do not know if that's in the right key. I am just singing. For all of you people with perfect pitch, please don't hold that against me. Thank you very much. Alright, so a killer line. This is a great line to learn in all 12 keys. Okay, last one here. Number 6, we are definitely in the home stretch. I love the way he finishes this line, but let's jump into the beginning part of the line here. So this note here is the note he lands on from the previous line. I just wanted to put it in there for accuracy. But notice here, that's a D minor 7 arpeggio. We'll keep it in G7, but I just wanted to point this out. This kind of just shows us, all right, he's probably thinking this bar here is 2, this bar here is 5, and I'm going to play it like that. So when you're chunking it, think of this is the 2 minor done with 1, 7, 5, 3. All right, so when you're chunking, think of that. And then he goes right into a classic bebop ending. So we got the flat 9, we have the 3, 5, this is the 13 or the 6. I'm going to just write it as the 6. We have the 7, 1, 6, or 13. I love that he ends lines on the 13. I think ending lines on the 13, just the natural 13, sound really, really cool. Check out Dexterity and the whole bridge. It's kind of a running theme. He hits the 13, the natural 13, quite a bit over the whole entire bridge. He either resolves on it or ornaments around it or something. And I found that really interesting when studying this bridge. The ending of this, just this bar alone, is worth your time hearing, playing, singing, of course, and and getting underneath your fingers and into your playing. I just think this is classic bebop language that we all should try to get a hold of. Bird is just kind of spelling it out for us here with his melodies. Thank you again, Bird. So that's it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bebop Language with Bird. Learn it from the master. As always, feel free to leave a comment below on any future videos you want me to make. Alright, until next time, just remember, always positive, always progressing. Later.